Hello, friends and colleagues. Welcome to the Tourism Skillshop, hosted by State of Washington Tourism, SWT. My name is Matthew Ozuna, and I am the Destination Development Manager at SWT. I will introduce today's webinar on creative districts. Please utilize the chat function in Microsoft Teams to say hello and let us know where you are joining from today. Feel free to share your comments in the chat and use the Q&A feature as well. My colleague, Marissa Petrovich, is helping with the webinar today. She is the Industry Relations Coordinator at SWT. Marissa and I will do our best to organize and prioritize questions from the audience and bring them to the attention of our guest speakers near the end of the webinar. Let me tell you a little bit more about this webinar series. The Tourism Skillshop is one of many industry educational programs from State of Washington Tourism. This webinar series will engage with colleagues across the tourism sector, broadening their industry knowledge, skills, and network. Each webinar will highlight a specific issue or skill for tourism professionals to ponder and discuss with industry experts. SWT usually hosts live webinars of the Tourism Skillshop on the third or fourth Thursday of every month from 10 to 11 a.m. Tourism Skillshop webinars are free and open to all tourism stakeholders. These webinars will also be recorded and shared with registrants as well as other users on the SWT YouTube channel. For Tourism Skillshop and other industry updates, follow SWT on LinkedIn and visit the SWT industry website, where tourism stakeholders can sign up to become industry advocates and learn more about advertising opportunities with State of Washington Tourism. I will also plug our State Tourism Conference. You can find more information on that conference in early October and register for that conference on the industry website. The conference dates are October 8th through the 10th. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about today's webinar. I'm joined by Semer, Christy Garrard, Laura, and Chuck Ritchie. We will discuss creative districts and their many benefits for communities across the state of Washington. In addition to promoting art, culture, and events, creative districts can foster economic development and revitalize communities. They can enhance the quality of life for residents and attract tourists looking for authentic and immersive experiences, something that I look for when I travel. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about our guest speakers today. Aaron joined ArtsWA in February of this year as the Creative Districts Program Manager. For the past 2 decades, I should say, he's worked in nonprofit arts administration and development with the Seattle Theater Group, Cascade PBS, and most recently on a successful relaunch of the Bumbershoot Arts and Music Festival, which is really cool. He holds a Master's of Public Administration from Seattle University, and Aaron is also a critically acclaimed singer and songwriter. Very cool, Aaron. Thanks for being here today. And Christy. Christy is Visit Issaquah's energetic chief cheerleader with 3 decades of sales, marketing, and communication experience. She's passionate about creative partnerships, transformational travel, and boosting the local economy. Since joining the destination organization in 2022, Christy has racked up honors like Washington State Tourism's Rising Star and 425 Magazine's Best Eastside DMO. Christy also is a Creative District Advisory Board member, collaborating on arts, culture, and economic growth projects in Issaquah. Christy, thank you for being here today. Looking forward to hearing from you. And a dynamic duo from Chewelah. We first have Laura, is the Executive Director of the Chewelah Creative District, where she facilitates community collaboration to expand the creative economy and strengthen cultural tourism in rural Eastern Washington. With a background in graphic design and development, she blends professional expertise with creative practice, translating ideas into meaningful projects and experiences. Alongside her leadership work, Laura pursues community-based art projects, including this one, which is very interesting. I want to learn more about it. The Nevermore Radio, an original radio play series and immersive public arts programming. Her work bridges design, storytelling, facilitation, demonstrating how the arts spark connection, celebrate local identity, which I think is very important, and creates opportunities for sustainable economic growth. Laura, excellent. Happy to have you here today. And last but certainly not least is Chuck. Chuck has been involved with stage productions throughout his life, including theater during his school years, organizing and producing music festivals, running live music venues, and now as the station manager at KCHW 102.7 Northern Lights Public Radio in Chewelah. And he is also the founding member and current president of the Chewelah Creative District. So Chuck, awesome to see you again. Oh, and it's your birthday. Your
It's my
birthday
birthday.
boy.
A
Happy
founding member.
birthday.
There are a bunch of them. Laura was also a founding member.
There's a bunch of them. Okay. Well, that's great. Chewelah, there's some passionate folks about the creative district and tourism folks in Chewelah too. So I'm glad we get to highlight that small Eastern Washington town. So before we kind of dive in with each of with Laura, Chuck, and Christy, Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're going to kind of provide us with a baseline, a foundation of understanding for creative districts for folks that are completely new to this concept. So I'm going to turn it over to you. We're going to let you share your screen, and the rest of the speakers will just tune in.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Matthew. First of all, I just want to say thank you to State of Washington Tourism for inviting me and all of us to have the opportunity to give this presentation on creative districts and their relationship to tourism. And thanks to all of you for showing up today to learn more about this. Let me share my screen here. All right, has everybody got that? Looks like it's working. So yeah, I just want to give a quick overview of what the Certified Creative Districts program is. It's a program of Washington State Arts Commission, and then after that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some best practices around creative districts and also just around creative communities and how you can utilize that to promote your community and tourism to your community. There we go. So I want to talk first about why this program was created. Washington State wants to help communities use arts and creative industries to grow jobs, increase economic and cultural opportunities, and increase cultural vibrancy and sense of place. The reason this is so important to Washington State is because the creative economy is a huge part of Washington State's GDP. These are the most recent numbers that just came out in 2025, and they show that the creative economy is continuing to grow in Washington State. We are now, it is 9.52% of our GDP. The last time these numbers came out a couple years ago, it was somewhere in the 8-something percentile. And what's really noteworthy is this is the largest percentage GDP for any state in the country. The creative economy is bigger for Washington State than any other state. As the percentage of our GDP. It's generating $70.2 billion annually, creates over 191,000 jobs, and generates over $28.7 billion in compensation to Washington workers. So it's huge here. Very important part of Washington's economy. You might be wondering, how could people selling paintings and making music make that much money for Washington State? Well, it's a lot more than that. So I want to talk a little bit about who and what is considered creative. And this is based on what the federal government classifies in their I think it's NAICS. I always forget the acronym, but their codes for how they classify how they track jobs and businesses. So we're looking at, of course, what we think of traditionally as artists and galleries, entertainers, performance venues. But then it goes into a lot more than that. Restaurateurs, breweries, wineries, inventors, museums, historic and cultural assets, food manufacturers. And we're not talking about like industrial food here. We're talking about small local food manufacturers. I always think about, for instance, I was visiting the Kennewick, the South Columbia Creative District, and I met a sausage maker there who's a huge part of their creative district community, which I thought was really cool. So things like that, maker spaces, gathering spaces for the arts, art and music studios, artisans, app developers, gaming industry. Of course, these are huge in Washington State, especially gaming industry is a constantly growing part of our creative economy. And that employs so many creatives from, composers, digital artists, writers. So much goes into digital gaming industry and architects as well. This is just not the full list. It goes beyond this. So what is exactly a certified creative district? It is a geographically defined, easily navigable area. It's a vehicle to grow jobs and economic opportunities. It's a focal point for people to gather, enjoy arts and culture. And it's a conduit to promote a community's uniqueness, to help you develop your identity, and also for placemaking, to make a stronger sense of place in your community. How does a district get certified? This is a really brief overview because it's actually kind of a very involved process. But step one is gathering your team, who you want to be a part of this. Step two is planning. This is the bulk of the work, the gathering and the planning. It usually takes districts, I would say on average, around 2 years to go through this process. And that's because we really ask a lot out of districts in the planning phase. We have a lot of resources for this on our ArtsWA website that are free and available to anybody to look at. The Community Readiness Toolkit is where the bulk of this work happens. And that's when I begin working with districts, coming to visit your district, ensuring that you're getting the right people on your team, having everyone involved from your community that needs to be there as you work through this plan and strategic plan and budgeting and all of that. Once you get that work done, you're ready to apply. The application should be fairly easy at that point. So you send us a letter of interest, and then I would send you the application. That's a 60-day process. Once you get the application, you have 60 days to work on it. Then it goes before a panelist to review your application, a board of panelists, I should say, that we pull together to review your application. And if they approve, it is then voted on and approved by the ArtsWA Board of Commissioners. And that's when you become a certified creative district. So that process, like I said, usually takes around 2 years, sometimes more. What makes a successful district? You need to have a clearly defined arts and cultural identity. And this is one of the coolest things. We currently have 22 districts, and there's just so much uniqueness. Every district really has their own unique identity and their own things that they're focused on. And since I've been a part of this program, it's just been so cool to discover all of that statewide and visit these places. You have to have broad community support and build those partnerships. This is key. This is usually the thing that takes people the longest. It's usually the thing that I will be pushing back on most when I'm working with communities and saying you haven't built broad enough community partnerships yet. You have to have more people involved. It seems like you're missing this part of your community. Really key to making a successful district. If you don't have that, you're going to lose momentum. City approval and cooperation, also incredibly important. Making sure that some districts are led by the city, some are led by nonprofits. There's a multiple different ways you can approach this. But in any event, the city government has to be involved, and they have to understand the power of the creative economy. And you have to have a solid strategic plan, and a long-term vision for activities and growth. And I'll also add a long-term vision for your budget and how you're going to fund your creative district. How certification can benefit your community. A state certification acts as an avenue for partnerships and grants. Now, there are grants that are available to districts specifically through ArtsWA that you only have access to as a certified creative district. But we also hope that this certification helps you leverage and promote yourself toward receiving other grants, either through local or federal agencies, and also through private foundations. That this lends credibility to your efforts to get those grants. It helps you organize and promote arts sector activities, and that's cross-sector, bringing in all aspects of your creative community. Provides redevelopment opportunities for perhaps, storefronts, businesses that aren't being utilized in your community. it helps strengthen the fabric of a community to bring people together to create future. And really, I mean, this happens in the planning process when you're working to become a creative district. It's something that, like I said, by the time you get to that application, a lot of this work has already happened, and you'll be right there. It's a great economic development tool. It can help grow entrepreneurship in your district. And why we're here today, it attracts visitors and tourists. This is the support that ArtsWA provides to creative districts. Resources and guidance. I've already talked a little about that, but through the application process, that's me, and I continue to guide and work with creative districts after they're certified. A fair application process. This is the panel of experts that works to approve your certification. Networking opportunities. You become a part of the creative district community, which is really big because it's a great community to be a part of. Every year we host an annual convening that is in one of our creative districts in the state. Everybody comes together, we learn from each other, and we also have cohorts that meet outside of that on a regular basis. And a lot of districts work together even outside of my guidance. They find one another, they like what they're doing, and they start talking. So there's a lot of organic networking that happens as well. Ongoing technical assistance for your district, advocacy support at the state level. We're always in there pushing for more funding for creative districts. I'm doing that right now in the supplemental budget process. I'm trying to get some more money. The state is in a budget crisis right now, so I'm hopeful, but we'll see. Ongoing funding, grants, etc., from the state. WashDOT provides highway signage. They pay for 3/4 of it. The district is expected to pay for 1/4 of it, but you'll see these signs all around the state announcing creative districts on the highways. And I guess I already mentioned this, but assistance in finding other grants. I try to provide resources, and I'm trying to do this more and more, resources to the creative districts for other grants that I become aware of. This is a map of our current creative districts. The red dots are the certified districts. There are 22. Orange is pre-certification. We have one district that is in the application process right now. That's Pioneer Square. Planning stage are districts that are really actively working on this, and then early stage are districts that are kind of just starting to come into this process right now. And I feel I'm really happy with the distribution that we have statewide of this program, and I want to continue to expand that. This is just a photo from our convening that we held this year in Tenino, Washington. Every district sent at least one representative. Some sent a few, and Tenino is just one really cool example. It's a stone carving community. They have a stone carvers guild there. That's a huge part of their identity, and this is their sandstone city hall that we are all gathered on. It's just a really great community of very devoted people that are doing great work in their communities, all of them. So that's it for just my kind of overview of creative districts, but I did want to talk a little bit about some best practices. I think I already mentioned some of these, but do I still have time, Matthew?
Yeah, you have plenty of time, especially when it comes to funding. That's what I'm interested the most in.
Well, let me talk a little bit about that then. I'll talk about funding and governance, because every creative district, there's a lot of different ways you can choose to govern your creative districts. Every creative district has to have an administrative organization that sponsors them. For some creative districts, that is it's within their city. They exist as a department or division of their city government, or sometimes under Parks and Rec, sometimes under, if their city actually has an arts or creative department, they're under that. A creative district can exist under an existing nonprofit. It can exist under chambers of commerce, business associations, under a tribal government. Or you can start your own nonprofit to administer your creative district, which is actually what Chewelah has done, who we'll hear from here in a little bit. And it kind of, depending on how your district is governed, that may change how it's also funded. Although districts have a wide variety of funding coming to them. Some examples where they're getting funding is from lodging taxes. Some districts have a 1% for the arts program or something like that, where, if new construction has to pay 1%, or there's different models for that, but something that's generating 1% that is going to creative districts. Sometimes it's just a city budget item because they're housed under a department of the city. There can be membership fees. This is kind of a harder road to go down, depending on how wealthy your community is, or if they're already paying membership fees to a chamber of commerce, they may not want to also pay membership fees to a creative district.
Or a tourism office as well.
Or a tourism office, that's one option, but I find it's not super popular with creative districts. Event revenue that's generated in your district. Fundraising from individuals. If you're housed under a nonprofit, this is something you can certainly do. There's fundraising grants, as I've already talked a little bit about, but government grants and private grants, and we hope that this certification helps people get those grants. A business improvement area, Pioneer Square, who's working on their application right now, is a business improvement area in the city of Seattle, so they are planning to allocate a lot of that money to their creative district once they're certified. Cultural Access Washington is another newer way for districts to get funding, and the Olympia Creative District, Olympia created a Cultural Access Washington funding there, and King County has it as well. There's a number of places in the state that have it now, and some of them are using that to fund their creative districts. So those are some great funding opportunities. It's got to come from multiple places, and we need to see a budget plan for when you're starting your creative district, where that's going to come from. You also do get grants from ArtsWA. You get startup grants, you get recertification grants, and there's opportunities to apply for capital grants once you're certified that are only available to creative districts.
And Aaron, those grants are guaranteed going forward in the next few years, budget cycles?
Yeah, well, for the next biennium, we are guaranteed. We have administrative funding to bring on new creative districts, and we also have capital funding for the next biennium, which I'm going to be opening that grant cycle in September to certified creative districts.
Excellent.
But it's getting stretched thinner because we're adding new districts. So I was happy, though. I feel lucky that we even got to hold that funding where it was in the previous biennium, that we got it back. So excited to have the funding, but there's more districts now, so the pool gets stretched a little further. So that's why I'm going to be asking for some more funding, and we'll see how that goes. Let's see. I guess I already talked a little bit about working with diverse stakeholders, but I wanted to be sure to mention, I can stop sharing my screen now, I guess. I briefly mentioned the community readiness workbook that is on our website that you can download. This is something that everybody uses if they're working to become a creative district before they apply. But I also wanted to just say that you can do this work whether you're applying to be a creative district or not. And this community readiness workbook is actually a really great planning tool for you to take a look at, to help you understand how to build that coalition of creatives in your community, and how to strengthen that coalition, and how to bring that group together and plan. And I'm not trying to discourage anybody from becoming a creative district, because really if you do all this work, you will be well positioned to become a creative district. But it's something you could do now and start building those coalitions. And you want to bring in, when we're looking at diverse stakeholders, of course, you want to have creative businesses, and you want to have artists and performers and your arts and culture organizations, nonprofits involved. But you also, things to think about, you want to have your business and downtown associations involved in your creative district. Arts and culture activity administrators, that can be your recreation department sometimes in your city. It could also be nonprofits, depending on who runs your large events. Looking at school districts and colleges to help create that pipeline of education for future creatives, and also just to make sure that you have the voice and involvement of young people in your creative district. Economic developers, city planners, community members at large, and of course your tourism office. All of these are important players to have involved in any sort of creative district effort, or just efforts to coalesce your creative community around an identity. So yeah, then there's, I could say a little bit about marketing, but I actually think that Christy has a lot of great things to say about marketing. So I'll probably hold off on that, because I'm by no means a marketing expert. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else you'd like me to cover around Creative District's overview?
No, that was perfect, Aaron. I think you gave us a good intro. You kind of set your conversation up to kind of dive deeper in Chewelah with Larah and Ritchie. So I'll turn it back over to you three.
All right. So yeah, I was just going to ask some questions of Larah and Ritchie here. So first of all, Chewelah was one of the first 3 certified creative districts in the state of Washington. I think some people were surprised when that happened, just because Chewelah is such a small community, and no offense at all to Chewelah, because you guys have amazing things going on there, but I think maybe a lot of people in the state didn't know what Chewelah was, or where Chewelah was, and hopefully people do now. So yeah, you're one of our earliest districts. You've been doing this longer than a lot of districts. So I would love to hear about what motivated Chewelah to seek out certification in the first place. And tell me about the team that coalesced around that effort in your community, and how that initial certification worked for you all.
Yes, and I'm sorry, Chuck Ritchie and Larah Ritchie, go right ahead. We're ready to hear from you. My bad.
Oh, sorry. What did I?
No, I said it. I misspoke, and then you copied me, so we're all good.
That's the problem with having two first names.
Right.
So the Creative District, when we first got started, a few community members, I think that represented the chamber and the Arts Guild, had come together and said, hey, there's this thing that's happening. And we started going through the workbook. We had a community meeting that was announced that anybody who's interested in this creative district thing, which nobody knew what it meant yet, let's meet. And there were over 40 people at these meetings, and we did them probably every couple of weeks for 3 or 4 months. We went through a lot of, here's a bunch of, big sticky notes, go write your ideas, and all kinds of different facilitated processes to really pull out what the community wanted if we applied for this, what it would look like, and what role the creative district would play. And pretty much 100% everybody was like, we have a lot of creative stuff going on already. What we need is somebody to connect us and to get us to collaborate more, so we're not doubling efforts, and so we can use what we have as resources, whether it's funding or volunteers or whatever, as more collaboratively, and not burn out like the same 20, 10, 15 people all the time.
Right.
So we were formed to become a collaborative sort of hub, somebody who connects the dots, and that's what we've been working towards. Of course, during COVID, that was really hard to do because there weren't events happening. So we did sort of stray from that and did our own little events. We hosted a online arts shop, for people to purchase things online and things like that, just to make do during COVID. And now that, after COVID, we've been working towards becoming that collaborative center again. So,
yeah.
And what was the other question?
Yeah, no, I just kind of want to add to that. Yeah, because we had organizations that were throwing events. We didn't. It's a small town. There's a lot of toes that are easily stepped on. We didn't want to take over what anybody was doing, and I think that was one of the fears in the beginning. Is, oh my gosh, these people are just trying to take over what we're doing, and we've had to kind of work through that and get people to understand and even figure out for ourselves. I mean, that was kind of a challenge too, of what are we and what is our focus, what is our goal. And our goal is, like Larah said, to kind of connect the dots and fill in the cracks where we're needed, and really focus more on the economic development side, as opposed to, we do highlight artists, we do a lot of events, but a lot of our events are fundraisers or to raise awareness more so than to, redo what some of the other organizations have already been doing.
That's right. I think I talk about Creative Districts program as a hub a lot, and that's really how I envision the function of this program too. That to be a hub for all aspects of your creative community, but also to pull things in like economic development, tourism, et cetera, and connect all those resources. So
And we were not surprised that we were one of the early ones.
No, I know, because you guys clearly have a really strong community built around this, and it was clearly there in the first place. And this was just a kind of an organizing structure for you, I think. So, yeah.
And you asked who was involved in getting it started, and we when we originally started, which was another growing pain, we all go through them. But when we originally started was great because we started with a collaborative of representatives from all of the different organizations in town. So we had a representative from the chamber, and a representative from the school, and somebody from the Arts Guild, and on and on. So there were a lot of different organizations. I think there were probably 10 different people that either represented an organization or were at large, just representing like that they were artists or creatives in town already. What happened was when we got our own nonprofit status, because we started as with the chamber as our fiscal sponsor. When we got our own nonprofit status, we were having our meetings, but the people that were representatives of other organizations weren't coming, because now we're asking them to basically be on the board of 2 organizations. And that was not ideal, because it's really hard for them to have that. So we decided to create our own separate board and still use all of those folks as advisory in advisory roles. And we've done that somewhat. We haven't developed as much as we'd like yet, the advisory panel, where it's an official panel. We really just have that in a casual way right now. But because again, we don't want to add to anybody else's workload. Like, you need to be a part of this other thing. So we do the most we can through conversations and getting feedback and all that. But we're still involved with all of those other organizations.
That a steering committee or advisory committee of your full community. That's great.
Yeah. And we partner with other organizations to do art shows. Like, we have the facility, and they provide volunteers, and we've got a couple of volunteers from another, like the Arts Guild, that does their artists that they find for art shows, for pop-up gallery that we do every month. And we provide the space, and we co-collaborate with volunteers. We have volunteers from our organization, from their organization, and we meet, once a month. Not so much lately because we've been so busy to even meet. But yeah, so we try to get those other organizations together. We've been trying to put together, again, we're also busy, it's hard, but we're trying to put together a collaborative grant committee to work together to, say, hey, this grant might not work for me, but how about you? And then sort of get together. And instead of, what that'll do too, there's a lot of grants where they'll only award 1 or 2 per community, especially for small communities like ours, where we can get together, and instead of having 5 organizations apply for the same grant in the same small town, we can try to figure out, okay, how can we work together and make this work for all of us? Or maybe decide, okay, that works better for you than us, and step away.
That's great.
As opposed to flooding those grant organizations. And I think from the grantor point of view, that makes us look more organized, and a little more professional, more likely to get bigger funds for the community as a whole, rather than for each individual organization.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I'm just happy. That's heartwarming to me to hear that that you're doing that to work together on those opportunities. That's really excellent. I wanted to ask what role your creative district and your creative community do you think has played in attracting tourism to Chewelah, and how has that tourism benefited your community at large?
Well, I think, do you want me to take this one, Larah? So, we have some help. We've got the state's 2nd largest ski hill right here in town. We have the state's largest golf course in town. And I think what we've been sort of experiencing with people coming to the area over the previous years is they would come to ski, they would come to golf, they come down from the mountain at 7 or 8 o'clock, and the town's closed, and there's nothing going on. So we've been working on, it's still a struggle to work on, extended hours. It's a small community. The businesses, they're not going to stay open if they're not making money, which is understandable. But at the same time, just a lot of it's just promoting the culture in the area, and we get a lot of people coming from outer areas. Since we started, it's not just a creative district, it's all the organizations pitching in together, but we hear a lot of people coming in from other areas saying, oh, I heard about Chewelah from this, or I drove through one time and it really looked great, now I'm coming back because I want to spend some time here. Or it's just about creating an atmosphere that's pleasant to be in. And one of our biggest focuses here is, we don't need to be out dancing on our lederhosen in the street corner. We don't need to do anything kitschy. We're a small town, and that's our identity, and we want to keep that identity and keep the charm without becoming, a tourist trap. But Laura and I, we've both lived in Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, one of the biggest tourist traps in the country. And we don't need that here. I mean, it could happen, it could work, but it really sort of muddies the flavor of the community, and we want to make sure, and it prices people out from living there, and we need to make sure. We have a lot of low income people here, and we need to make sure that we create a nice place for them that is also inviting for other people. So we're not just catering to the people that come in from the other areas with money. It has to be for the people here first.
Yeah, that money that you generate is benefiting your community first and foremost, and not outside investors. Yeah.
And as
one
a
thing
side,
we do have,
people here.
Yeah. One thing we do have that draws a lot of people is that we have a really big growing music industry, which Chuck is a big part of, focusing on local music, but there's probably 8 or so concerts a year that bring people in, and those concerts aren't just locals. We have a great 3 great venues right now. 4, one just opened up another venue for live music, and they're always busy. And then there's also live music now up at the ski hill often, and at the golf course often, because it's become evident to them that live music is the way to pull people in. And when you talk to other people in the area that don't actually live in Chewelah, they're like, yeah, we go to Chewelah if we want that artsy feeling, if we want to feel like, we're connected to that. There's a lot of art. We have an art walk every month, which brings people in. It gets bigger and bigger. It's a small town. Usually there's 3 or 4 people on the sidewalk, but during the art walk, there's sometimes, 100 people walking down back to all the different stops along the art walk. And we have a huge theater program, which we're a big part of. The Creative District is a huge partner of, but also Chuck and I get involved with, is the Center for the Performing Arts in Chewelah they have 3 different theater troupes, but one example is that the kids theater troupe, the school could no longer fund theater, so the theater troupe does it at the Center for the Performing Arts. They do a huge production twice a year. How many they did? Nemo, I think there were 115 kids in the cast.
Yeah.
So many, and those productions, and they did Wizard of Oz, and it's a huge production where if you did it in Spokane or in Seattle, people would be like, their jaw would drop. So we do it here.
Yep. Wizard of Oz made me cry in the audience because it was so well done. And considering the number of kids. Sorry, Larry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, considering the number, what is our population here? About 1,200, 1,250, 1,300? To have, and our population is primarily over 60, with all those factors in place, considering we have that many kids coming out and trying out for plays in an area this small, it's a major percentage of the population, and we don't even have a large, youth population here at all. So it's incredible how supportive that is of the community, and how supportive the community is of the theater program.
Well, it sounds awesome. It sounds like there's a lot of goodwill and momentum towards creative districts, the creative economy in Chewelah. So that's the good news. I'm going to kind of shepherd us along, folks, because we're kind of running out of time. I want to get to Christy and Issaquah, but Aaron, ask that last question because I think it's an important one.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping to have time for this, but I don't want to hold this, not have Christy have her time.
Well, you guys have about 2 minutes. How about that?
Okay. So I wanted to ask you, what challenges has your creative district faced in Chewelah when it comes to municipal buy-in and understanding around the creative economy and what it can do for your community?
That That's
Yeah.
an ongoing process.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Laura.
To take that?
Yeah, go ahead.
We've had a few, obviously a lot of people are very creative here, so there's an interest in the creative district, but a lot of people haven't been able to wrap their head around what the creative economy is. Like we continuously say the words creative economy. We've written a few articles in the paper. We've had several community meetings, and we talk about creative economy. And then there are still leaders in our community that are like, well, we need to get another big, large scale manufacturer or resource destruction company that will bankrupt us in 10 years and leave us dry, which is what always happens in small towns.
That's
And
our town history over and over again.
And our argument and our process is we don't have to do that. We can focus on creatives, we can focus on the individuals, we can focus on developing. We have a ton of remote workers here that work for other companies, but they live here because they can afford to, do a lot more with their money their dollar goes a lot further. Developing one thing that is really helping people understand is I've been having conversations with a handful of companies that are small businesses that if they connected the dots and worked together, we could develop a wedding industry in this community because there's floral, there's venues, there's photographers, everybody that you would need in a huge floral wedding industry. We could do that.
Beautiful outdoor locations, of course, too. Yeah.
Exactly. So connecting those people is a big example of how we can develop the creative economy. And when we do that, and it's officially like, hey, they're promoting together as a wedding venue, as a wedding industry, then that's a clear picture to the rest of the community that there's opportunity to do this. All these people can build sustainable businesses that employ other people, not just sell a few paintings here and there.
Right.
And they're starting to see that. We've got several musicians and writers and creative businesses like food manufacturers and things that do this as this is their job. This is what they do for a living. It's not their side gig. And the more we can promote that and make that really visible to the community, the more they start to understand that there is a possibility here, that we don't have to sell out to another huge manufacturer or another resource extraction company. We can still build a thriving community without that.
And 40 locally owned small businesses is much stronger than one big one.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And it can withstand a lot more weathering and withstand, businesses opening and closing, as opposed to that one, that company store that closes and every town's done,
Diversified. Yep.
Yep, exactly.
Excellent. Well, Chuck, Laura, Aaron, thanks for your portion of the webinar. I'm going to give you a break. Take a look at the questions in the Q&A and take a look at the chat. We have some great questions and other topics from the audience that I want to get to. But before, let's go to Christy. Christy, and let's talk about Issaquah. And we know that you the creative district for you started right around or before the pandemic. I know all the really cool things in Issaquah. You have outdoor recreation, you have this lively downtown, you have an art scene or you have a bunch of creatives downtown. Right. But let's kind of bring us, catch everyone up to speed. What is the state of the creative district right now in strategic planning as it relates to the creative economy, but also the visitor economy?
Thank you. And it's great to be here. And I guess I will, I'm going to try and talk quickly and summarize, and folks can reach out to me after the call or individually if they want to talk more about Issaquah specifically. What has been since we started taking masks off in 2022 and I joined this role at Visit Issaquah representing the community for tourism. I was also serving on the Creative District Advisory Board, and I was also serving on the Economic Vitality Commission. The Economic Vitality Commission had hired a consultant to do a study about what Issaquah should be focused on to grow the economy in Issaquah. And the result of that study validated what we already knew, and that is Issaquah's outdoor recreation, creative economies, and the visitor economy are the key drivers for growth in Issaquah. So that happened. And then, so we've been deploying initiatives around growing that economy. And then our creative district came up for its 5-year recertification. And so I got to work on that project as well. And I worked very closely with the city arts group, with economic development, and our parks and recreation. So Visit Issaquah as a tourism tool for the city is kind of the glue that holds these all these organizations together, because city economic development is on all the city, not just creative, not just outdoor recreation. Arts is very focused on arts. I'm talking to everybody in all three of those economies. And so I'm the best, Visit Issaquah is the best resource to bring back information that's helpful in the goals that we set, whether it's through economic development policy that we're working on, or our 5-year goals for the creative district. And through that, we're also very fortunate to have very positive relationships between all of these organizations. So we come to the table regularly and share what we're working on. And I bring value to that conversation because I'm out meeting with the community in outdoor recreation and the creative economy, and working with State of Washington Tourism and Port of Seattle and my partners in tourism. So I know what's kind of going on and trending around, and that really helps guide conversation or validate things that we're looking at instituting in Issaquah.
Including some development of culinary tours. Now, I bring that up because I saw in the chat or the Q&A, someone kind of questioned culinary arts, food. Why don't you tell me or the rest of the audience a little bit more about that? And I'm also thinking of Walla Walla, like agriculture, creatives, like combining a food and artsy experience into tourism. You sell that. So I noticed you're trying to do some of that in Issaquah as well.
And it's consistent also. Visit Issaquah is also working on our destination stewardship strategic plan. And part of that is building bookable itineraries that I can take to the travel trade industry. Exactly. So it aligns with the goals of the 5-year creative district goals, in that creating these bookable experiences. And so we, in most towns of our size, we're 40,000, but we feel smaller. Mm-hmm. You have these historic downtowns or these really quaint shopping districts that have a lot of restaurants, bars, and cafes. And this is one area of the visitor experience that we really haven't tapped into yet. So that's one of our 5-year goals, is to develop that program.
Excellent. Well, yeah. I'm gonna. How about this? I love this question too, and Chuck and Larah kind of talked about this, but I kind of want to see how it relates to Issaquah. The folks in your collaborative circle, who are you working with? How does everything align, and how do you folks kind of support each other?
Right. Well, as I said before, I serve on a lot of these different, boards and commissions. And then we've also formed this cohort for our strategic planning effort. So we have those organizations from city government represented. We have land advocacy organizations. We have our local Snoqualmie tribe, as well as the creative industry and our outdoor recreation outfitter providers, to come to the table and really start talking about the future of Issaquah from a visitor economy, which brings in the creatives, certainly. And so that's what that's doing, is building new relationships between. And I think one of the most positive outcomes from this work is that our creatives are now stepping into a leadership spotlight. Like, they're understanding that their voice around the creative economy matters to Issaquah, and they're more comfortable in sharing their opinions and also getting more involved civically. So I think that's a really powerful outcome of tourism strategic planning that's going to serve Issaquah and the creative economy side well into the future. We also have 3 new nonprofit organizations focused on the creative economy that are real powerhouses, and but they run in different lanes, which is really interesting. So we have one organization called Issaquah Arts that's really focused on activating underutilized or unused spaces for elevated art experiences. Then we have Art Commons, which is looking to build community among the creatives and create events for the community by artists. And then we have Clown Garage, which is and Culture Tug is the nonprofit arm of this. And this is a local resident who has ties to Cirque du Soleil, but he lives in Issaquah, and he's very well known internationally for street art activations and performances. And so his organization is really looking to elevate the art offerings that we have in Issaquah. I mean, people like wine walks and art walks and those types of things, but honestly, they've been kind of done to death, and everybody's doing them. And so Culture Tug is really coming in to say we can do better, or we can take what we have and elevate it to a new level. And that's important because we want people that have visited Issaquah before to feel like we got to come back, because every time we come back, it's fresh and new and contemporary and modern. And so we're really excited about the work of organizations like this that are aligned with the city's goals and really so eager to work collaboratively on growing the creative economy.
Yeah, that's excellent, Christy. I'm so excited of what the future holds for
We are
Issaquah.
too.
I can't wait to kind of spend more time there. Again, like I said, it's always kind of a pass through for folks in Eastern Washington, just jumping on I-90 going to Seattle. But it's actually kind of a great respite before you hit Seattle. Just kind of be in that cool space and kind of walk around and explore. So
it's a beautiful place. And I
recommend
will add too, there's an intersection between outdoor recreation, arts, and culture, and I'll share that quickly. We have an Issaquah Film Festival, and it's a multi-day event, which is important for us for tourism because that's how we generate those overnight stays. And so really working to elevate that experience in the next 3 to 5 years. And this year we identified 4 outdoor recreation specific or outdoor adventure and recreation specific films that were filmed in or around Issaquah or Washington State that we were able to, and they all featured female athletes, which was also really cool. And from paragliding, trail running, canyoneering, and mountain biking. And so we made that the theme of the film festival, and it introduced all those organizations that were involved in the making of those films intersecting with the filmmaking community in Washington State was a really powerful example, and we look forward to growing that. We're an international paragliding destination, and we have been introduced to a paragliding festival in France that is paragliding meets Cirque du Soleil meets Carnival. It's a very avant-garde spectacle in the sky, and so our Culture Tug leader there, Mick Holzbeck, because he's done so much work in Europe, he knows the people in France that produce that event, and he's going in September to meet with them and learn best practices, maybe see if there's some collaboration there. And from a feasibility study that State of Washington Tourism did or funded for Issaquah to actually have a multi-day paragliding and arts festival that will kick off in August of 2026, but will not only put Issaquah on the map, it'll put Washington State on the map, and in time it will be a national event, and we're super stoked about that. And I could go on, but time is short. And but anyway, there's that intersection. Don't miss out on that opportunity to connect your outdoor recreation folks with your art folks to see what magic can happen.
Well said. Thanks, Christy. Okay, we have 5 minutes, folks. And this has been such a great conversation. I don't think any of the speakers have to run right at 11, so we could probably stay on for a few more minutes.
You bet.
Erin, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're the professional from ArtsWA. Let's take a few cracks at a few of these questions. Was there one or two that stood out for you to tackle first?
Yeah, so there's a couple I was answering in the chat here, but someone had asked if community theaters are or can be partners with creative districts, and yes, of course. And mention that I think almost every one of our creative districts has, some form of community theater organization in it or more, and then some of them have professional theater companies, like Issaquah, for example, has an amazing professional theater company there as well. So, theater is a big part of this, big part of the community, and Laura and Chuck are both involved in community theater as well. So.
Well, our creative district was, the inspiration was that the Village Theater is a cultural anchor for our historic downtown. So
that's super important to Issaquah, I know. Someone also asked if there were specific, where was that question? Specific examples I'm trying to think of how it was worded. The specific examples of new businesses, I think is what they're saying, that have been started as the result of a creative district. I mean, there's a lot. I don't know that you can exactly always tie it one-to-one as like this business started because of the creative district, but I think what often happens is that you get a ball rolling around a creative community, and people start talking to other people. They start realizing maybe what needs are unmet there. They start having ideas. One example I did think of is in Issaquah. Again, I don't mean to keep going back to Issaquah, but the Happy Time Studios.
Yes.
I know was started recently and super involved in the creative district effort. Again, I can't say that it was only started because of the creative district, but it's become a big part of your creative district now. And that's a learning, they host classes there in music and
they're producing
visual art and poetry and
open studio tour in September, and they do songwriters in the round. And I think that's an example of an artist who really just came in and embraced the fact that we have a creative district and wanted to be a part of it and bring others in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I could really quick to sort of tie in the previous question about the theaters and this current question about new businesses. Now, this was before our creative district started, but for example, the radio station I run was started through our theater. It was a DJ, the gentleman who started our station, Scott. He was a DJ and he was out, in other areas, and he came back home. This was his hometown, and he had the dream of starting his own station, but he couldn't do it himself. So he partnered with the local theater, who was already a nonprofit, who already had, some resources to help him get this station started. And through that, over the years, he was able to, then use them as the anchor point, a fiscal sponsor to get things started, get the radio station's 501c3, and then become the radio station it is today. And that was, 15 years ago. But at the same time, that's the theater, the creative people coming together, creating another entity, and what ended up being, we're a nonprofit, yes, but we're still a nonprofit business. So
I just wanted to add what Christy said. There's been a handful of businesses that have come to town. We have a new theater, a new dance studio that opened downtown, filled an empty space that was getting a little aged. And we have a restaurateur that came, and he renovated two of the very empty, very derelict spaces. One, he opened a restaurant, and now he's leasing it to another restaurateur who started a music venue inside there. He's a barbecue place with a stage. So these people decided to put down roots because we have a creative district. They've said point blank, when we were trying to decide where to go, we picked Chewelah because there's a creative district.
Yeah.
And it was a right vibe in the right community and the right type of personality for what they wanted to get started.
That's huge. I think that speaks volumes, that people expressly said they moved somewhere because of that creative community and the focus on it. That's huge.
Well, I've spoken to two musicians individually who were driving through, trying to look, just kind of driving around. They were thinking about relocating. One in particular, who's a phenomenal musician now, he's touring now, doing all kinds of great stuff, who moved here because he drove through the area and saw that creative district sign and said, "This is where I want to be." And he said that was the absolute deciding factor of moving here.
Wow.
And, and what we're having an issue with is, is affordability in terms of spaces for creatives and for them to live here as well. And so we've written that into our 5-year goals and in our tourism strategic planning goals to bring the creative voice to the table with the city when we're talking about affordable housing and transportation solutions, and working with local property owners on changing perceptions about leasing to creatives.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Christy, for bringing that up.
We have
Okay,
the
Aaron.
problem of affordability, but not the space.
That's true. Good point, Chuck. Okay, Aaron, let's take 1 or 2 more questions before folks have to hop off. Is there another question or two that you wanted to bring to the rest of the speakers that they can help answer?
Let's see. Well, this one's an easy answer. Do you have to be an actual city or town to become a certified creative district? You do not. That's not a requirement and in fact, even if you are a town, the creative district is still you have to have your own boundaries for the creative district. In a small town, it might be most of the town, but in a place like Issaquah, it is a specific area in Issaquah, and Issaquah is much larger than the creative district itself. You just have to have defined boundaries, and you have to, meet the requirements and do the work, but it doesn't have to be a city. It can be tied to another organization or a tribal government. Someone asked, are the funds primarily used to support marketing? What are the funds being spent on to support the creative district? Well, I think most creative districts have a wide variety of sources for their funding. So that funding could be allocated to whatever that specific funding is for. As far as funding that comes from ArtsWA, it does not have to be allocated to marketing. And I mentioned specifically we have capital grants that are only available to creative districts. So that is distinctly not marketing money. That has to be used for physical improvements of your creative district in some way. And the operating grants that you get, you can choose to use however you want for creative districts. So it could be used for marketing. It could be used to cover administrative fees and anything like that.
I will say too, at Visit Issaquah, because we are funded 100% by lodging tax revenue, which has to be spent on marketing, is another reason why it's so important that you have that relationship with your creative community, because I do the marketing. I do the primary heavy lift of the marketing for our creatives, and that's the synergy that makes it work.
Yeah, if your community is lucky enough to have a tourism office, then what you're going to do is partner with them, and hopefully that funding will come from your tourism office. Ideally, it won't have to be generated elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Aaron, before we hop off? Any other burning questions? It looks like someone's going to follow up with you, Christy. Kim.
Great.
Excellent.
Look forward to it.
We could go on, but we're out of time.
Yeah, well, I told you folks this was going to be a fun, valuable webinar, and we were time was going to fly. So okay, we're about 5 minutes after. Aaron, any other thing that pops out at you that you would want to cover before we go?
I'm still kind of reading through here. Sorry.
No worries. This was great. We had folks from all over the state. Folks, you will get the recording. I will provide email addresses for Aaron, Chuck, Laura, and Christy. So if we didn't get to your question today, you can follow up with them via email or maybe a phone call. Like I said, you'll get a copy of this recording, so you can always rewatch it and see if we covered anything that way. But this has been a great session. I think this is, tourism folks and artists and creatives kind of coming together, collaborating, finding partnerships, kind of finding a better way to work more efficiently and effectively. I think this is kind of what we should be doing going forward, if we're not already in places like Issaquah or Chewelah. Okay, so Christy, Laura, Chuck, and Aaron, any last words?
So I just...
go ahead.
Go on. Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
To kind of go along with last marketing thing, just in general, from my heart to yours, don't forget about your local radio stations when you're thinking about marketing, because a lot of people don't think about that, but with the numbers are actually much more effective as thank yous, as sponsoring your community radio station, being a part of the community. People are more likely to respond to your business for your support of community radio. So
Yeah,
Not
and
just us,
I
all
have spent a
community.
bulk of my my marketing with Cascade PBS this year because well, for lots of reasons, but yeah, big fan of supporting public radio.
All right. Anything
That's
else from
it.
you, Christy? Before I turn it
Oh,
over to
just
Laura?
reach out, anybody, if I can be of help. I'm always happy to share.
Okay, Laura, what about you?
Yeah, stay weird. Do the thing. Whatever it is that you want to do it.
Yes,
Yep.
that's right.
Love
Be
it.
unique. Be true to yourself. And Aaron, what from you?
Yeah, I just want to encourage anybody who's interested in this process to reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. A lot of communities reach out to me about this, so I will get back to you as soon as I'm able. But I'm here to help through this process, point you in the right direction, and help you become hopefully eventually a certified creative district. Someone did ask how long it usually takes. It generally, this is an average. I would say it usually takes about 2 years. But there's also kind of a long line right now, to be honest. I showed that map earlier of there's the certified districts, but there's a lot of districts that are not certified that are working on this. So, it's going to be a ways out at this point to become a certified creative district. And I just hope that we can continue the funding for this program and keep growing it.
Excellent. Thanks, Aaron. And I'm here to help too, folks. State of Washington Tourism. I hope to work closely with Aaron and ArtsWA on planning and policy work, community workshops, trying to kind of get the creative economy and the visitor economy up and running, or just merge, working more efficiently and effectively.
I want to make some road trips with you, Matthew. That's my
Yes, exactly.
some regional
Let's
road
do
trips
it.
to creative districts. That's
I agree.
Great.
that's
That'd be
my,
great.
yeah.
Love to host you.
Awesome.
You're welcome here anytime.
Enjoy this fun. All right, folks. Well, thank you for all of you for joining us today. This was a great conversation, and we look forward to another great conversation in September as we focus on AI chatbots. So stay tuned.